Tweety Bird. Hey, hello. Da, 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 da. Hi, Hatchimal. Hi, I'm Dr. Robin Koslowitz, YouTube's post-traumatic parenting expert, and I'm here with Wowie Robotics' new hatchling, fingerlings, new sweet treats little birdie. I don't know if you remember the fingerlings monkeys that we talked about a little while ago. And I'm here to talk about mesh toys. What are mesh toys? What is mesh? How can we integrate toys into our parenting plan? If you're a post-traumatic parent and you want to give your children a different childhood than the one you had, if you say to yourself, I know I should be playing with my kids, but I don't know how. It just seems like something other parents do, but it's not me, and I know I'm missing out, then that's what we're going to talk about today. If you feel like you'd like to play with your kids, but you don't know how to play with your kids, and you have a sneaking suspicion that your trauma has something to do with that, welcome. Before we go on, click subscribe below so you never miss another episode. Today we're talking about the new concept of mesh toys and how integrating toys into your parenting plan is so important for post-traumatic parents. So, first of all, what are mesh toys? So I just recently came across this term, and there's a part of me that's going, welcome, thank you, toy industry. Finally, you are waking up to what I've been saying for so long, which is that toys are the hidden superpower, the secret sauce to amazing cycle-breaking parenting. And we can use toys really mindfully to promote kids' mental health if we know how. So what is MESH? MESH stands for mental, emotional, social health toys. So these are toys that are designed with a mental, emotional, and social health component built into the play, built into the toy, so that we can enhance children's resilience and we can teach children social and emotional competencies using toys and games. Which, remember toy hacking? I have been saying this for years. Take toys and use them to effectively teach children social and emotional competencies, teach them mental health, teach them the resilience skills they need for life, because during play, our brains are attuned to each other, and that's the most effective, best way to teach any skill. So there's a part of me that's like, hi, toy industry, welcome to the party. This is what I have been saying for years. I'm so glad you're waking up and figuring this out. What I also want to point out is what mesh shouldn't be is it shouldn't be just slapping an emoji face onto a toy and then calling it a mesh toy. Because I saw a lot of that at the recent toy show, the Spring Fling. Toy event for Toy Insider, there was a lot of like emoji faces on toys. Not all of those toys are toys I would consider hackable, meaning toys that I would say can be used mindfully in your parenting plan to teach a skill. Some of them were, and some of them weren't. So let's go through how I would relate to the concept of mesh and how post-traumatic parents should, and what blocks you from playing with your kids. First of all, why would we be integrating play into our parenting? For a lot of post-traumatic parents, for those of us with a trauma history, very often what happens is trauma really makes us lose that ability to enter into the transitional space of play. We're playing, we're joyful, time constraints kind of fall away, we're attuned, we're attached, we're sort of like resonating with one another, because trauma makes our lives very constricted and small. And it's very hard to enter that transitional place. If you remember being a little kid and you were just like with a cardboard box and it was your, rocket ship, and it was your limousine, and it was your stage, and it was your doctor kit, and it was your bed because you were Sleeping Beauty, and you and that cardboard box could just be playing for hours. And it didn't feel like hours. It just felt timeless. That's the transitional space of play. Trauma robs us of that ability. Trauma very much constricts our time and our sense of time. Either we don't have a good sense of time at all, but then we're very panicky about that. Like we're always late. We don't know how to manage our time because trauma robbed us of that capacity. So we don't want to get into that place where our time is suddenly, we're suddenly like, oh my gosh, 3 hours passed. What happened? I was supposed to go pick up my kids and now I'm late for carpool again and someone's going to make me feel like the worst mother in the world, right? We don't want to do that. Or we keep our time very regimented. Either way, entering into that transitional space of play with our children feels very threatening. So that's one barrier to play. Another barrier to play is many post-traumatic parents only know how to use our imagination for imagining worst case scenarios and how to stay alive. So it's very hard to use your imagination to pretend to be talking to this cute little pet bird and to be sitting at a tea party because my imagination, I have it, I use it all the time. I imagine all the worst possible ways that my family could be dead today and what to do about it if that happens. Like if a gunman bursts into this house right now, what will I do? If earthquake suddenly strikes in New Jersey, where we don't have earthquakes, at least not in the part of New Jersey I'm in, then what would I do, right? That's what our imagination, we have imagination, but it's so busy being used for all of those things that to like waste those resources on tea parties feels a little stretched, feels a little hard to do. Here's the thing, and we're going to talk about the fix soon, about what we can do about that. A lot of post-traumatic parents want to do things right. One of the hallmarks of trauma is perfectionism. And play is something that's hard to do right. Am I doing it right? Am I playing right? Am I not doing it right? I don't know. So then all those doubts creep in and we're just not sure. Should I be doing puzzles with my kids to enhance their math skills? Or should I be doing a tea party because of creative play? Or what about teaching my kids to explore all sorts of different jobs? Maybe I should be playing some sort of a game like that. It's play, right? But perfectionism really gets involved in that. So let's understand, first of all, how mesh can help. So at the Spring Fling event, I saw a lot of mesh toys, a lot of toys with some emotion component. So I saw these Hand to Mind, the brand Hand to Mind had these express your feelings sensory shaker bottles.
You guys are going to be so excited because I'm with my Hand to Mind, and this is literally exactly what we've been talking about. Take a look at this. You're going to love this. All right, let's hear.
All right, so these are express your feelings sensory bottles. So each of these represents a different emotion to help kids understand how they're feeling and recognize those emotions.
Okay.
So if they're having a temper tantrum or just need some sensory to help them get out of, a bad headspace,
right,
they can do that. So this is over.
Really great. Your kid could come home from school. Your toddler can come home from school. You can take those sensory shaker bottles and you can ask them how their day was, and they can line them up and show you, I had an impatient moment today, I had a frustrated moment today, I had a happy moment today, I had an excited moment today, I had a scared moment today. It's a great way to structure a conversation about different feelings. So when your 5-year-old comes home from playgroup and you say, how was your day? What happened? And the kid's like, nothing. Oh my gosh, I'm a post-traumatic parent. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with my child? They don't want to tell me about their day. So you hand them one shaker. Tell me one exciting thing that happened today. Let's shake this up. Yeah, you were picked first to hold the stick and point to all the letters during the alphabet song. Wow, that's so exciting. And notice, for the post-traumatic parent who might not know how to do that, we're modeling validation by attuning, right? I'm so excited to hear about your excitement, and I'm mirroring your excitement. So when you tell it over to me, you feel excited too. Tell me one thing today that was scary. Well, today when we were on the tricky bars for a minute at recess, my hand slipped and I almost fell off, and that was really scary. Oh, wow, that sounds scary. Let's figure out what happened and what went wrong so it doesn't happen again, right? So that's how we deal with fear, right? We don't just say we're never going on the tricky bars again. We say, let's make sure the next time we go on our tricky bars, maybe we wipe our hands first so they're not sweaty, so that when we go on them, we don't lose our grip, right? So the idea is let's talk about fear, and let's learn what to do with our fear. So here's the thing. During play, our brains are attuned. Research shows that when a parent plays with her child, their brain waves sync up. They do this using FNRS research, which is called functional near infrared spectroscopy. Basically, they're measuring the brain waves of the kid and the brain waves of the parent at the same time. They wear a little cap, and they can see if the child's brain and the parent's brain are syncing up. When a child and a parent are playing together, their brain waves match, which means they're attuned. Attunement is the building block of that felt sense of being felt. My parent gets me. We're enjoying this together. If you remember in the first few minutes of Inside Out, when Joy says, it was incredible, just Riley and me forever. That feeling of like we're enjoying each other, it feels boundless and timeless. If you engage in that with your child, you start undoing your trauma app's hold on your time sense. And your trauma app starts learning to allow you to enter into the transitional space of play, where it's just like we're enjoying each other and it feels wonderful. It's wonderful for our brain and our inner child because it's healing. And it's wonderful for our child because it gives them one of the 4 S's of attachment. They feel seen, right? Because you get me and I get you. They feel safe. They feel secure. And right now they don't need soothing, but they feel soothed, right? So you're giving them the 4 S's that Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson talk about in, the whole brain child, where they really feel that sense. That's why play is so important. Now, here's the other big barrier that a lot of post-traumatic parents have with play. I don't know how to imagine. I'm not creative. There's something that everybody is missing about that. Don't have to be creative to engage in imaginary play with your child. Mind blown! I'll tell you why. Because every single toy that you use for imaginary play with children already does the heavy lifting for you. Here's Honeybee Acres. They have these adorable anthropomorphic little characters that are animals but sort of people. What I like about this set, by the way, is the price point's very good. You can get it at Walmart, and I think now they're going to be in other stores as well, but they're really reasonably priced for the quality of the toy that you're getting. But here we have little Mia, right? And she is selling lemonade in her lemonade stand. And they have these big farmhouses. There's a lot of things. There's school buses. There's playgrounds. Honeybee Acres has like a lot of these sets. But this is the perfect example because you're sitting down and your child wants to play lemonade stand with you. And your child says, okay, now you say, how much money for the lemonade, please? And then you say, how much money for the lemonade, please? And the child says, 50 cents. And you reach into your pocket and you pretend to give her 50 cents. That's the extent of your imagination. When your child engages in imaginary play with you, the play set is doing the heavy lifting in terms of creating the narrative. The child also, it's their imagination. All you have to do is do as you're told. And this is great because a child, especially a toddler or an emerging school-age child, they don't get a lot of chances to order adults around. They don't get a lot of chances to demonstrate agency in the world, to be in charge. But they need to learn that, right? That's a very, very important, what comes into the mesh skills. It's a very important part of self-advocacy, right? I can speak up for myself. I can tell people what's going on inside. I can make myself understood and I can have agency in the world. So when you're sitting there, as boring as it might be, you're sitting there and you're saying, how much for the lemonade? And she says 50 cents, and you take out the 50 cents and you give her the 50 cents and you pretend, and you have your little character, maybe you're using this set, and your little character, this guy's Jules, and you have Jules drink the lemonade, and then she says, okay, now we're going camping, and you say, okay, yay, camping, where should I put my tent? What you're doing is you're entering into the transitional space of play, but it's your child's imagination that's doing the work and the play set that's doing the heavy lifting in terms of what's the narrative here. Because if we have this camping set and this lemonade stand, the story of what we're doing, we're probably not engaging with Godzilla and King Kong and space aliens, right? And if we are, great, no problem, because it's my kid who's bringing those things in. I don't have to do all that much work. All I have to do is act out the part given to me by my child. You absolutely can do that. A lot of post-traumatic parents say, I can't do imaginary play because I don't have an imagination. First of all, you do have imagination. You're just using your imagination to imagine worst case scenarios and how to keep your little ones alive. That's number one. But second of all, you don't need an imagination. It's not your imagination that's supposed to be working now. Your child's imagination is working. This is that trauma thing of working too hard and doing too much and trying too hard to control everything lest something go wrong. Listen, if the imaginary lemonade stand or tea party or doctor's visit goes wrong, nothing happened. You tried, right? You didn't scar your child for life. Simply sitting there and doing as you're told during imaginary play is so much more valuable than you think. Now, if you're a post-traumatic parent and you really can't do that because the whole time thing and time being very scary for you and you don't want to waste time, or you have a million things to take care of and your time sense is not great, I'm going to show you another. I'm going to blow your mind here. Here's what you do. Another toy. This is a time timer. You can find it at timetimer.com. This is a visual timer. You basically set the amount of time you have. And because as the time ticks, it moves, your child, who might not be able to tell time so well, can see how skinny or fat the triangle is. So how much more time we have. So simply decide in advance that I can do imaginary play because it feels like nails on a chalkboard to me for my trauma reasons. No problem. I can do 10 minutes. Okay, I can probably handle 10 minutes of doing something I don't love. 10 minutes where I'm going to be really present, where I'm going to take some deep belly breaths before. I'm going to remind myself just how much I love this child, and my parenting values include playing with this child. And then I'm going to set the time timer up where she and I can see, and I'm going to say, Mommy can play with you with, this camping set for 10 minutes, but when the timer beeps, then Mommy has to go and do some work in the kitchen, or then I have to go and I have, to pick up your brother from kindergarten or whatever. So we have 10 minutes. Now, yes, when the timer beeps at minute 10, your child might have some distress, right? They might not be so thrilled to end, and that's okay because that's a normative stressor that happens in life. How often do we ask children to transition from a more preferred activity to a less preferred activity? Really like watching cartoons, it's time to go visit grandma, or it's time to leave for school. I really like playing with my Legos, and now it's bedtime. We ask children to transition. So yeah, there's going to be a protest. That's okay. And we might say, oh, it's so sad. It's so hard. Stop playing. We were having so much fun and now the timer beeped. That's sad. Tomorrow is another day and we get to play again tomorrow. And guess what? You just taught a social and emotional competency. You just taught your child. You made them feel so seen. Yeah, it's hard, but you held the boundary. Which is, by the way, one of those things about being a responsive parent that people misunderstand. Of course, we have boundaries. People think gentle, responsive, conscious parenting, that like we have no boundaries and our kids walk all over us. We teach boundaries, but you know how we teach boundaries? Through play. This is how we teach a boundary. You're sad that we have to end now, but now it's time to end. And that's okay. I'm so sad that you're sad, but we have to move on. And that's it. The kid might whine and protest and cry and melt down and do any of those things. That's not a sign that something's going wrong. That's a sign something's going right. Because the fact that the child feels free to have a meltdown because imaginary playtime ended means that you're a safe enough parent to have a meltdown in front of. So score for you. You did a good job. Now, that distress, we sometimes as post-traumatic parents think that if our children are exhibiting distress, we've done something wrong. The fact is, distress, you hear the word stress and distress. Distress is the normative reaction to stress. It is stressful to stop playing. Hey, I find it stressful when I go out to eat with a friend and it's time to leave. It's stressful. No, I don't want to leave. We're having fun, right? I find many things, many times, when I have to transition from a preferred activity to a less preferred activity, hello, adulthood, right? This is what adulting is. I find that somewhat mildly distressing. That's okay. I have to learn how to cope with my distress. This kind of responsive, gentle parenting doesn't mean your kid's never going to feel distress. It means you're going to teach them how to handle it when they feel distress. And ending playtime is one of those things. The third point, that you can't play perfectly. Hey, first of all, the play set's doing the heavy lifting. Second of all, you don't have to play perfectly. The point is not to play perfectly. Yeah, you might do it wrong. That's okay. By the way, if your kid redirects you, you're not pouring the tea right. No, that's not what my teddy bear would say at this tea party. You're doing it wrong. That's important. That's your child trying to figure out how to reconcile our fantasy of how something's going to go with the reality of real world experience. Hello, social media, right? Like the fantasy of how these cookies are going to come out versus how they actually look, because they don't look like Martha Stewart's. And that's okay. That's another skill that your child has to develop in life, and that's totally fine. Just because it feels like it's going wrong doesn't mean anything went wrong. So super important when we're incorporating toys into our play. Now, here's where I think maybe the toy industry is going a little bit wrong. They're looking at mesh toys as like, those sensory shakers, and they have the emotion faces on them. There were a lot of cuddle snuggle toys. I saw these amazing night buddy toys that are like that are just the squishiest toys, and their eyes light up in the middle of the night and you can soothe yourself to sleep with them. They're looking at those as mesh toys, but I have news for you. You see these binoculars, these kidoculars from Educational Insights? This is not being marketed as a mesh toy. I have news for you. If I take these binoculars and I teach my child the idea that sometimes I need to take a closer look at a situation. Something seems bad, but when we take a closer look, we understand that it's not so bad. This just became a mesh toy because I taught my child a skill. The idea that sometimes we misunderstand something upon first pass. I plan on using these toys, giving these kidoculars to my 2.5-year-old and my 7-year-old, and they'll just have fun, like closely examining things they see outside, and like looking off our front porch and seeing how cool it is that the neighbor's house looks really close. But I plan on sitting down with my 11-year-old and 13-year-old and using this as an analogy that sometimes we have to take a closer look at a situation before we make a decision about what's good and what's bad. This is not marketed as a mesh toy, but this is a mesh toy. Any toy or game that you use to teach a social and emotional competency is a mesh toy. So if I'm playing Sorry during family game night, and I get the Sorry card, and I say to my kids, "Sorry, you have to go back to start," and I get to go to your spot, and now I'm almost winning. And then I say, when I said sorry, did I really mean it? Or did my words not match the authenticity of what I was feeling? And then we could have a really interesting conversation about how sometimes people say things they don't mean. And the concept of being passive aggressive and relational aggression, and that kind of bullying where someone's like, "Oh shoot, we didn't save you a seat at lunch because we didn't think somehow that you wanted to sit with your friends at lunch," right? Like, it's a great way to have a conversation with a child about all sorts of social and emotional skills that we have. When we do family fun night and we build Lego, we very often use Lego Friends. I'm going to show you at the toy show, I saw some new Lego Friends houses, and I saw the adorable new botanical set they have. They even have like a Polaroid camera that you can build out of Lego. We like to build these projects that are actually a little old for my kids, meaning we'll work together on a Lego Friends set that might be rated for like 14-year-olds, but the whole family is doing it. But the little kids just get jobs like sorting pieces into the right shapes and colors, or holding something steady while someone else is putting on the pieces, so that we're all working together. And then sometimes something's frustrating. We put something together and it falls down. And then we say, okay, what do we do when things are frustrating? What do we do if somebody bumps into somebody else's elbow as we're building together? And one kid is like, "Hey," how do we share resources as a team? What do we need to say? How do we give feedback? When you do X, I feel Y, it leads to Z. When you stand too close to me, I feel crowded, and then I can't work on my section of the Lego thing that we're building, right? So this is Lego Friends, Mia's Treehouse. We have it here because we're going to use it in a family fun night eventually. And you notice it's rated for kids age 6 to 12. We're going to all build it together. That will include my bigger kids and my littler kids. But when we're working together, we might have to give each other feedback. We might have to take turns. We might have to talk about how something's frustrating or two pieces that we think should go together are in and something's unclear. And yeah, that might be a little frustrating, but the idea is together we're going to figure it out, and then we're going to talk about each other's communication style and how we work together. And then at the end, crucially, we're going to give feedback. What went really well tonight when we were building Lego? What didn't go so well? What should we do better next time? As a team, as a family, as citizens of the same community known as this family, how are we working together, right? Now, also, of course, there's the shoulder-to-shoulder aspect of everybody working together. It sparks conversation. We can talk. We can remind each other how much we enjoy each other's company, right? So there's a lot of aspects to playing with kids. There's a lot of toys that are not considered mesh toys that are mesh toys simply because they promote mental, emotional, and social health if we know how to hack them into our parenting plan. Don't be afraid of playing with your kids. Don't think you're going to do it wrong. You can't do it wrong. You can only do it more and more successive approximations of right. So when you're reading about mesh toys, first of all, don't be fooled. Just because a toy has an emoji face on it does not make it a mesh toy. It's a mesh toy, at least for me. I didn't originate the term. I actually would love to speak to the people who did. I have so many questions and so many thoughts. But for me, any toy that you can use to teach your kid a social and emotional competency where it's built into the play is a toy that can be considered a mesh toy. Don't miss out on the secret sauce that is playing with your kids, because there's literally no skill. Think about how parents normally do things, right? Your kid is late for the bus again, and you're yelling, come downstairs, put on your socks, put on your socks, put on your socks, put on your socks, put on your shoes, put on your shoes, put on your shoes, put on your shoes. And then the kid's like, can I, play something? And it's like, are you kidding me? The bus will be here in 4 seconds and now you want to play something? If you wanted to play something in the morning, you needed to get up earlier so that we would have time to play something, right? And it's like, what am I teaching right now? Nothing. That big people tend to explode, right? Big humans explode when they're under stress. That's the only thing I'm teaching. If I take a game like right there, Go-Go Gelato, if I take a game like Go-Go Gelato, which is a time management game and an executive functioning game where you have to manage your time and executive functions carefully in order to complete a task quickly, then I will play a game like that. And then I will talk to my kid about, how our mornings get so rushed. Maybe if just like when you can win Go-Go Gelato because you organize your materials and you set it all out, maybe if we laid out your clothes the night before and packed your backpack the night before, the morning would be so much less frustrating, and then you would have time to play a game with me before school. That's the best way to teach the concept of time management. Lecturing a kid about managing their time well, 4 seconds as the bus is beeping outside, teaches nobody anything other than big humans explode when stressed. We very often try to do this. We try to teach at the moment of stress. We can only teach at the moment of calm and attunement when our children and us are synced up. So yeah, we might have missed the bus last Tuesday and now it's next Wednesday and now we're playing time management games because we're going to drill down on this time management concept. Now, if you want to use some sort of a behavioral approach, and here's where it's really important. I don't believe in behavioral approaches that are coercive and that don't take consent into account. I think a lot of times parents bribe their kids and call it doing behavior modification. I like the behavior aspect of it, not the modification aspect of it. Meaning, after we've played a lot of games about time management and we've learned the concept, then I can say to my child, would you like to play a game where you demonstrate that you have these time management skills? And if you do, there's a reward in it at the end. And the kid says, yes, I want that. I realize that time management is something I really need to learn. And when I learn time management, my life is so much better. That's the appropriate time to build that kind of reward system into your parenting. Not when it's coercive. If you don't pick up your toys, I'm not going to buy you a bike and I'm going to take away the train set that grandma gave you. That's, first of all, not behavior modification as it's really meant to be. It's highly aversive and it's coercive. That's not how you teach through play. Can we take the insights from behavior modification, the why behavior happens aspects, but not the what to do about it aspect, and use them in our parenting? Absolutely. If we're not coercive, and if we have a lot of consent from the child, and the child's like, yeah, I want to play a game where I demonstrate my time management skills, and then I get a whatever, and then I get to go to Target and choose a toy. Yeah, I want to do that. Fabulous. And that's where, when you hear people saying things like sticker charts are child abuse. Coercive control is child abuse. Not allowing a child to consent is child abuse. But when a child says, yeah, I really want to learn a certain skill, and then when I learn that skill, I want to be celebrated for that, as all humans do, right? We love to celebrate our achievements, and we should. That's not coercive control. That's using play to help a child learn how to modify their own behavior being key. If there's consent and there's buy-in and the child wants to do it, that's not abusive. If it's like imposed on the child, or if the reward is like so major or so necessary to the kid. I've seen sometimes parents, I've seen like a kid who needs to fit in school. Every single kid in the class has a certain brand of backpack or a certain kind of shirt or a certain, gets to take a certain lesson, and they want to fit in. So they want it. And the parent's like, well, only if you do this, 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 and this. You're taking a desperate need of the child and using it to coerce them into changing their behavior. That's not even behavior modification. That's coercive control. That can be abusive. But if it's like, I want to learn this skill, mom. Yeah, it's important to me and it's hard for me. And when I learn it, yeah, I should be celebrated for that. That's fabulous. That's incorporating play and consent into our parenting plan. So if you like this video, if you like the idea of mesh toys, if you like the idea of incorporating play into your parenting, if you're a post-traumatic parent and you're like, I just don't know how to do that, I don't know how to incorporate play into my parenting, welcome. You're in the right place. We're going to learn a lot about how to do that. But if you haven't already, please click subscribe below. If you wish you could ask me questions and this was more of a give and take, like more of a talk show, please comment below with your questions, with your thoughts, with your observations, so that we can continue this conversation and we can learn from each other. You can also check out the post-traumatic parenting community on Instagram at Dr. Kozlowitz Psychology. Check out the Post-Traumatic Parenting podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, the Post-Traumatic Parenting book is coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. But please let me know what you think of this episode and what your questions are and specific parenting conundrums you have that you'd like me to resolve with a specific toy or game, because I will absolutely do that. See you next time.